Not
Can we
yet.
call the meeting to order? Are you guys ready?
Yep.
No, it's that.
On the air.
What's
Thank
the time,
you.
Ben?
6:01.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'll put Cheryl, do you want to be in charge of taking the notes? I'll take notes as well. We can
Yeah,
collaborate.
that'd be good. Yes.
Thank you.
But now that we have Ben, I can review it.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah, we're looking for a secretary. Fingers crossed. So thanks for coming. The first thing on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes of April 22nd. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Second thing on the agenda is to accept the meeting minutes of August 12th, 2021 for review. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Scott? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So the purpose of the meeting is to go through, I think we had a chat about this, before we ended the budget season, that we'd like to meet with the school department. It would be probably members of the school committee, the superintendent, he can bring whoever he wants, and try to get a little bit more clarity on their budget. So what we'd like to do is come up with the specific budget lines that the committee would like to go through with that group. I believe we've invited the Board of Selectmen. I believe that some of them may come as well to the meeting with the school committee. But what we'd like to do tonight is to gather the budget lines that we'd like to review in more detail, and then understand what the committee would like to see associated with those budget lines. And then we'll put together a memo requesting the information. Towards the end of tonight's meeting, we'll figure out some dates that work. We're thinking, depending on how many budget lines the committee wants to review, we might need 3 or 4 meetings. We'll figure out proposed dates for the meetings, and we'll send a memo to the school committee. Here are our requests. This meeting, this date, these are the lines we'd like to review. This is the documentation we'd like to see, or these are the questions we have, on and on for whatever it is. So does that seem like a good approach to everybody?
Sure.
Sure, sounds perfect.
Yeah, I think we need to, based on the last meeting, we need to meter it a little bit to be reasonable in the
Yeah.
request and the number of items and,
Yeah.
not to absorb endless hours of the school's time.
Yeah, we do have to be cognizant
So-
of.
Respectful.
Yes.
Yes, it's just
Yeah.
I
respectful.
mean, respectful of their time and their resources. And I don't think we need to, go into every little nitty-gritty detail. Anyways, I think there are some areas where, we have expressed some interest in understanding better. So, maybe we'll go kind of, I don't know how you want to do this, around the
I went-
table. Are there specific?
Has everyone got that one?
What's that? What's that?
That was the-
Remember when we met with them to kind of go line by line?
It's the more broken out version.
Oh,
It was
oh,
It was with that.
Okay, yeah,
Found
so
that
it's
to
probably
be
in here
very
somewhere.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have now that, yep,
So is there like specific, I mean, I looked at it more from a strategic perspective, so I had some questions that, ultimately I could tie them to individual budget lines, but I'm a little bit more interested in a little bit more strategic direction of the school, but are there specific, I thought we'd gather the specific budget lines first.
Well,
Yeah,
first of
we-
all, they never submitted the full-time personal sheets that everybody else, and I tried getting those from Mark.
I'm sorry, what are you
They're
calling?
the full-time employees, what they make.
Oh.
We have no idea what every other department has submitted that, and they haven't, according to my understanding, they have not submitted it for the last 3 years.
Right. I think that's line 3230, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that was one of mine that I
Was
was
it
asking.
3230?
3230, the
Teaching
teaching
services,
services,
which is a
I
huge
think is
budget,
their
yeah.
payroll, right?
Yeah.
But one of the questions I think I had, and I asked in the library was, they had added some positions, newly added, and we were kind of like asking about, well, what does that do going further? So it was just, I want to get a better understanding, because it always seemed to just be that kind of blurry line of not really
Yeah.
understanding
And if
how
everybody
many
else
and
has,
who.
yeah.
So do
And
we
I'm not
wanna-
looking for individual names, but
Okay.
just an understanding, like maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I don't want individual names either,
I
I
think
want
head
just an
count.
A head count,
understand, yeah,
right.
and a head
Or
count.
classifications.
Yeah, and where they fall and what their, what particular staff is making what, and not, so you have your after-school or whatever,
Right.
or whatever, the speech people, that's broken down, and so you know what
Right.
most
I mean,
is
it's
that where you're going
about
with this,
$7 million
Scott, too?
is what I have here.
Yeah,
So are we saying we want the number of employees in their classification, for example, 3 kindergarten teachers?
Yeah.
5, K through
yeah, and I'd
5.
like to know if they added
Yeah.
anybody after the budget this year also.
Right, I mean, because again, not to harp on this one, but they used the new, that new money from the pandemic, and they ended up grabbing a
ESSER
new
funds, yeah.
employee.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for us going forward? How did they-
Psychologist, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did they hire?
I believe
I
that
thought-
was my
I thought I
understanding.
read something that they were gonna
did. Oh, they
hold off
did.
and wait until,
They-
I thought they surveyed, I don't know that they did.
They-
Let me just-
okay.
So one of my questions on my list was, how did they use those ESSER funds? So that
Yeah.
sounds.
That was
Yeah.
my question, number one. That's what-
Yeah.
So now, let's assume we get all that, and I look at this, and, I look at it, and I'll look at coordinators and say, how many do we have? What are they doing? I mean, that's beyond our purview, I
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah,
I think it's more
Yeah.
to understand, to look past at a pattern. For me, as a financial person and a budget person, looking at a pattern in the last budgets, and that's what we want to figure out.
So
You know what I mean?
do we want to ask them then?
Have they added people?
For that
Had
data, for the
yeah.
past 2 or 3 years, or do we just
Yeah,
want
let's
current?
see what
or-
they're doing, so then we can see going forward, because I'm here one more year, I don't know how many other people are here, how many their term is, but we need to set it up so that we all understand when the budgets change over, that somebody has a historical account of what's going on.
Okay.
Well, if you're going to do that, you also would need to understand the student mix. You'd have to know
The sped
if
stuff.
the kids have, like,
Yeah, that's a
we
good
got a
breakdown
million
too.
kindergarten kids this year, they absolutely do need to add a teacher. So
Yeah.
we have to, you can't just look at the numbers and say, well,
No.
you've increased this amount.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah,
have to know
great
how
idea.
ratio that is to the number of students.
Mhm.
I mean,
I
I
don't think
have
that
heard
should
some
be-
And do we want to get
comments
to that level? I don't know.
outside this room
Yeah, that's deep.
saying, that's all well and good. In the end, the number's gonna be the number. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna cut it.
Well, it's more about understanding, in my
Yeah.
view. In my view, it's more
Yeah.
about understanding the challenges that they face.
Because then what would our
so that we
purpose
can make
be?
sure they have the funds that they need. So when I came at it, I was from a more strategic view, because I want to understand
There are some
what's
areas
the
that you don't.
long-term plan, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Good
what's
question.
the
I mean,
plan around the school maintenance, replacement? Are you gonna come looking for money for roofs in schools and things like that?
Mhm.
What's the plan for, as the school enrollment rises, which we know it's going to, and the number of school choice children that we can take?
It reduces.
Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
expectation?
Right,
We need to
right.
bridge that gap. Like, I would like to understand, I was thinking about this, I mean, we stand up at town meeting, well, we
Yeah.
sit down, but we, as a finance committee, and we say, yes, we would support this budget. I like to understand,
Mhm.
and I like to not be blindsided every year with
What's an example?
a big increase, like,
It's
I would-
running 4 to 6 every year.
yeah, and
It's-
other departments are coming in 3 to 4. And when I
Yeah.
asked the question about how many students did we have 5 years ago and how many are we serving now, the answer I got was about the same. So, I just wanna understand
Yeah.
better.
Yeah,
Right.
and I
No, I
think having
understand.
an idea of where the school choice is at this point, And as we have people move in, having a better understanding of that is also important too. So that breakdown, it's an easy number. It's not that hard to, I would think that they know who their student mix is and where they come from. I really
Well,
do.
they've listed school choice, that's not a secret, it's all
Right.
broken out
Yeah.
in here in
Right.
detail.
Right.
The issue, I think, and I'm with Jan on this, more than a line item for me, is we've got 70, 80 houses being built in Scotland Street.
Mm-hmm.
That alone can take 100 school choice, you know, if, assuming everything's at capacity, and it's not a fair assumption to make that, but assuming everything's at capacity and 100 kids move into those houses, those are 100 out at
those are-
$5,500
And they only
bucks.
had 29 school choice students last year.
No, higher number.
Yeah.
It says the class of 2021 has 29 school students.
That
Right.
particular
That
That
class.
particular
That
class.
class.
They
But
have
collectively- It's
over 100,
275
isn't it?
No, they have
Yeah,
275,
it's a
I
lot.
think it was.
And what's the
Total
number?
Oh,
school
so they're
choice,
not filling the
K
school
through
choices?
eight- K through
Maybe I
12.
misunderstood this
choice.
completely.
Yeah, that's just for one class.
That's one class, like
Classes.
the graduating
12
class.
classes.
Okay,
So if you
alright.
take, you
Yeah.
know, they're getting, what, 1.5 million from school choice, half of that could
Right.
go away in the next 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and as a town, we have to, A, figure out how to absorb that, B,
And how does it get, so just not, maybe this doesn't matter, does the taxes that those people pay offset that budget at all?
they
Or
won't- they
very
won't do it
minimal?
enough. If
Yeah.
you, here's just my,
You mean the
and this
new
is,
houses?
Yeah, yeah,
here's my horrible math, it won't work, right? Because a school choice kid is, it's awful, but it's worth $5,500 per
yeah,
child,
yeah, it is, yeah.
right? Those houses, I don't know what they are, but let's just say they get $7,500 in taxes, $8,000 in taxes.
Never
Oh,
did.
Which
some-
might be-
Some of them.
Might be
Yeah.
high, others will be lower. You have 2 kids in that thing, you're already
Yeah.
in the negative, never mind the other town services that
Yeah.
will be provided.
Yeah,
So it doesn't wash in the overall budget. Like,
yeah, yeah.
Well, but, so the other question I had though was the per student expenditures, you know, like 13.5-ish.
Per student.
How much is fixed and how much is variable?
Yeah.
Because a lot of what I heard was that we only get 5,500 for a student on school choice, right? And we pay 13.5 to educate them.
Mhm.
And the answer I got was, well, but some of that's fixed cost, but I don't know how much of that's fixed. So to plan appropriately for this flip
Yep.
of, you know, students versus school choice, we need to understand if we had 5, you know, if we only had West Bridgewater students, how much would we be paying anyways? I mean, we have to have extra teachers and stuff if we,
Drop
you know what I
270
mean?
kids, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not, you know, those school choice kids aren't all in one classroom where the teacher goes
Correct.
away.
Yeah.
It's a classroom that
Correct.
has
Right.
18 and now maybe it has 22, or, you know, like it's just,
Are many kids at school choice sped kids?
That's another question.
no,
And-
not that
and-
not
yeah.
that
I think if they are, doesn't the originating town?
Yeah, the
have to-
originating town, and that payment is different, as we know, on our end.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is
I don't
just-
understand what sped is anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot of different
So,
things,
You
but.
know what I mean?
But I
It's-
think if you have if you're classified as a sped student, the hometown school department
Has to cover
has to
that.
cover that, even if that student's here, as we do. That's why our,
As we do.
Even
our
if
sped
he's in the
budget's so high.
system, not outsourced, but
Right.
even in the system.
Both, even if it's outside. So
if
let's
it
say,
comes from out, if the student comes from outside of town, wherever they're coming from, I believe has to cover that cost. If,
So how do we know what it is?
That's my question. I want to
don't-
see, what's
yeah.
the
Yeah,
income
sped
exchange?
services
and-
and-
I don't want to go too far down this, because I, again, school committee
We
can
could
much
ask
better.
that, though.
But I don't think there's a lot of that. I think there's an opportunity, and part of what I would like to discuss is, can we hire a teacher or two for sped that would
Do it in-house?
do it in-house, and, you know, and maybe reduce some of the, I was on the sped page, I turned the page,
Yeah,
but,
you know.
but can maybe reduce, right, so we pay, you know, I don't know what, I have no idea, say 80, whatever benefits, whatever,
Yeah.
you know, but then reduce the sped expenses
Well,
for
'cause there's-
travel.
Yeah, they're
and
saying
things along
that
those lines.
$2 million was spent on 1.2% of the population, so.
So is there an opportunity to bring that, any of that in-house?
You and I are on such the same page, because one of my questions was, what would be like the one or two things we could invest in that would allow us to reduce that outplacement? So if you have 5 kids getting the same services through an outplacement at $40,000, you know,
Yep.
just what you're saying, can we hire
Yeah,
somebody
and
to
my-
pull them in?
And also, there's a big cost in the transportation of that. So
Correct.
do you think about hiring a bus, our own bus person, and having a bus on hand that does that? And would that reduce some of the cost also?
I don't know if I think we're maybe looking at this simply because the problem with SPED is that each individual has
Yeah.
different needs.
Yes.
And they have a plan or a protocol that they have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So if we hire a SPED teacher that can take care of the, like, 5 kids that have a similar problem here
Yeah.
now, next year it's gonna be totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
understand the
and-
problem.
Yeah, and I'm not,
We're
I'm
not
not
being
trying to
street
solve
specific.
their problems.
Right.
I'm trying to just understand what we're
Understand,
spending.
yeah.
What are we
Like,
faced with?
I would
Yeah.
I don't want to go out and buy new buses. I don't want to tell them how to do their work. I don't want to tell them how to do their work. I just want to be able to understand the spreadsheet, which I've never been able to do in my many years.
I guess I'm a little bigger, I want to understand that, but I also want to understand
How we can
if
reduce
we
it?
can control
Yeah.
the increase on an
Yeah.
annual basis. I mean, there's going to be fixed cost salaries that
Right.
require
Isn't that what
increase,
the
but,
school committee, isn't
That's what
that
they do.
their
That's what they
role
do,
is to
yeah.
control things or not?
no, I, you know, I have several are friends as I speak into the microphone. I think
Yeah.
they're looking at it more, it's to provide the best experience
Yes.
for the students
Yeah.
that they can.
Yeah,
Okay.
fair enough.
And I don't think
Yeah.
that's a bad
So we're
call.
more of the watchdog than,
Well, I
Well, I
think,
think that's our
Yeah.
role in the town. If you look up a finance committee under Massachusetts, because I did, we are the watchdogs. We are the ones that are supposed to be watching what people do. And if I'm not gonna be doing that, then why am I here?
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I
right.
feel like,
That's right.
the school committee is really laser focused on the
Mhm.
school budget, which they should be, that's their role.
Mhm.
And we have to be focused on the bigger picture of the whole town.
On the
Yes.
impact to the
Yes.
whole,
Right.
the whole
Yes.
group of people.
I guess
Yes.
that's, you know, they absorb most of the increase in taxes for the town on an annual basis. We're gonna see, if you have that in mind, and just round numbers, and probably not properly calculated, but if we max out at a 2.5% increase and they're taking close to 2, it leaves the rest of the town a little strapped.
yeah.
As school choice diminishes, there's the potential for that to come closer to 2 or over 2. Throw on top of that, there are some other town departments that I don't think have a long-term plan that are going to be in need of significant cash flow, water.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Yes.
you know, how are we gonna balance that in this? So,
I mean,
but
there's a lot
then,
of choices to make when you're dealing with
Yeah.
budget.
So, like Scott said, I mean, there's what, I don't know how many pages in here, but do we want to just kind of flip through these and say, this is the area, Scott, that's the question, a line item?
Where did Scott come from?
And I have a few,
Caused a lot of problems, Scott.
So
I
we
mean,
have
if you go
line
to,
Blame on
item
you.
30.
Threw you right under the bus.
instructional
You're right under the
technology,
bus I wanna buy.
I have 2 items, the rest are up to you.
All right,
45.
So we have 3230, teaching services.
Yeah.
We have 3245, which is what, Mo?
instructional technology.
Okay, and what's the question there? What would you like to see
Tech
there?
maintenance.
Okay.
I don't-
Want to know what that is?
Well, I do, and I think, you know, Scott's in that field too, but, I mean, I don't understand $90,000 there, so maybe I need more.
You you said 3245, right?
Yeah,
you're on the detail then.
001.
Okay, because I have that as, for 22 is 126,000.
No, you're, the whole thing, but the one line item I
Oh.
was looking at,
Okay.
tech maintenance, which is,
Oh, he's
Those
up
are-
in this.
those are gonna be all maintenance contracts, so you don't buy software anymore.
that's right.
You
pay
have to pay
it on
for
a
them to
monthly
keep
I
it up to
assume
date.
they're reasonable numbers, I just
Yeah.
don't know.
That's not a lot.
So do we want to just confirm that that's software maintenance? Is that what we want to
It's
confirm?
called tech maintenance on the line item.
So maybe we can just get that answered in an email.
Should take very fast, yeah,
Yeah,
should be pretty
okay.
fast.
And then, Was there another line?
I know for, like I said, my original one was just the teaching services to understand, and again, not needing people's numbers, just understanding the amount and kind of to your point where we're going. And then the sped is just, I know that's an outstanding issue, but just trying to get a better understanding of how we're spending that. And I mean, all of the speds are just,
Right.
for the 1.2%, I think we're spending, more than half or something like that, and
Yeah, it's $2
maybe
million.
there's nothing we can do about it, it's just maybe understanding it better will.
Yeah, and I think same philosophy along those lines. You know, there was much conversation for whether we needed another school psychologist,
Correct.
psychiatrist, whatever. I firmly believe we do, but I think, like, we were rushed in the budget process, even though we had the other meeting, a lot of items, a lot of things. So I think giving the school an opportunity to better have us understand what their role is and why there's another.
I did do a little reading on that, trying to compare districts and psychologists, and an awful lot of them only have one per school
Yeah.
system, not one per school, but one per
Or
system.
the system, yeah.
Yeah.
So my
kind of-
question would be, we've got 3. Are they counseling kids all day long, 5 days a week, or?
It's, most of it, from what I understand, and again, we'll let the
From
school committee,
testing.
it's a lot more around testing and identifying and putting together plans. So if you have some type of a learning disability, it's them getting together with the teachers to figure out how to work with that
Wouldn't that be
disability.
sped?
Individual service plans, ISPs,
No.
yeah.
I think SPED is.
No, I think what you said,
Okay.
yeah,
The ISPs are what
it's the
take most of the time.
ISPs, not the sped.
But more to
Two
your
different.
point, there we go, right, with some confusion, and
That's right.
if we
yeah,
can,
yeah.
get that type of thing clarified.
If I remember when my daughters were in school, it was, I had to do the running around and get it with my insurance. Now the school has to pay that?
Well, that was kind of my question is, what do
Yeah.
you view as the school's responsibility?
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you measure the need, and what do you need, and what gap are you trying to fill? Because that was not really clear to me. So I'm not necessarily opposed to hiring another behavioral health professional. I want to understand
Yeah.
what their role would be and what they would be doing, and what makes sense, because, again, if we take a step back from a town perspective, how lightly do we have to tread in that space? You know, if we have behavioral health professionals and they're providing services and something goes tragically wrong, is the town at risk? Like, I think
Yeah.
we need to understand the roles and
Yeah.
responsibilities, right?
But that's what this is perfect for. We're far away from budget. We're not in
Yeah.
a rush.
Yep.
It gives us the opportunity to.
Yeah, just like you said, Jan, if we misdiagnose somebody, or the psychologist working under this misdiagnosis, how does that raise our responsibility to that?
I wonder if they
Doesn't change the
have,
fact that we have an obligation to
Right,
do it.
it's the same thing as if you
Yeah.
have a bad teacher.
yeah, I mean, I wonder if they have any
Yeah, I just don't know what our
statistics.
obligation is, though. That's changed over terms.
I think one of the other things we need to look at is, I know that Mr. Baldwell, known him for a long time, he's taught my kids, I have a lot of
Yeah, I've
respect
known
for
them
him.
for 30 years.
I know they want to do the best
Yeah.
first-class school that they can, and I can
Mhm.
appreciate that, but do we
Yeah.
have it? Do we have that monetary, do we have the monetary spending to be able to do that, or is it, hey, we need to, and that's why I'm just trying to understand the
Yeah.
numbers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to tell them how to do their job, they're
No.
much more educated in that than
No.
I.
We, you
But
know,
I'm just trying to say, because to your point, if you look at the police or you look at the fire, you have everyone's name, salary, and it all adds up, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not asking for that, but it just,
Right.
it's got to get closer than what it is. Right now, it's kind of a dartboard, and we get a little close, and we go, yep, we feel comfortable, but we don't really know where it all goes, because it's so big.
Yeah.
so when, from a special ed, you said you'd like to understand that better. How do you feel like we could best accomplish that? Is there documentation you need, or like what, I don't even know what questions to ask them to come prepared how to discuss that.
I
right?
think I'd like to know what role the state or the federal government
Mhm.
plays in assisting with funding for SPED. I know that the state is supposed to give you like reimbursement for services. I'd like to know
Right.
what they're supporting us, how
I
are they
mean-
supporting us? Are the feds in there? I think they are. I mean,
For some of it. yeah.
with,
So-
I'm on a board for people over the age of 22 with people
Oh,
with
yeah.
disabilities, and it's the federal government, it's the state government, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And are they seeking any grants to help with
Right.
special ed stuff? Because grant money is out there,
Yeah.
and I don't know if we have any grant writers in the,
Does anyone know how the Chapter 70 funds play into this budget? I know, I looked it up today, the state gave the town $4.5 million, Chapter 70. But I don't see where that fits in here.
I think we
Well,
would
it's
need
the
to
whole
talk to
town.
Dave.
Huh?
Yeah, I think we need to talk to David on that one, because
Yeah.
it is the whole town, it's not just the school.
70 is just education, right?
Don't believe so.
isn't it this is money from the roads and how many miles of roads we have? Isn't that the one? Am I
See,
wrong?
That's what I don't
Well, we'll
understand.
ask.
So Jan,
Have we-
along those lines with SPED, without diminishing service or anything along those lines, is there an investment we can make here to provide that, equal or better, I would think, better level of service, right? If people didn't have to travel.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the school committee's thinking of that.
I'm sure
but I
they
just-
are, yeah.
But where it's that big of a line item, I
But
feel like it's
it's
our
nice to know
responsibility
that we're all on the
ask.
same page, though, if
Yeah.
they know that we're there
And
to
if
spot
somebody
that.
asks, we can defend them, you know?
Yeah.
I said, look, they've doing everything they can within their, to do
Have-
this.
Yeah, and honestly, Cheryl, that's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, when we're up there at town meeting and this stuff's getting discussed, if questions come up, we'd like to be able to support the school
Exactly.
department and say, look, we went through this. We really feel like, we support this. We really
Right.
need this. And we may
Yeah.
have to give up
Exactly.
something else, right?
Yeah, all my
I get
children
it.
went to the school, so I would support the school too. Have we ever had a grant writer in West Bridgewater?
Yes, we've had grants.
No, grant writer.
A grant writer, somebody who,
I
like.
don't-
Somebody that
Grant.
specializes
Oh,
in
no,
that.
I don't-
Departmentally,
Yeah, I was
we
gonna say
have.
department.
I mean,
Chris
when
is
my
very
sister
good
was a
in
special
that,
ed director,
yeah.
she used to write grants to
Yeah,
get money
'cause
for
that-
special
that
ed programs.
70 is school.
It is school.
Oh, it is school. Thank you for
So,
doing that.
so that would be a question. How does that fit in here? Where does Chapter 70 fit into the budget?
I got that. So, one of the things that I wasn't sure of, and they talked a lot about this per student expenditure. When they calculate that, I wanted to know if they include the VOTEC, because that's another $600,000 that this town is spending for the kids
I
that
don't
go to
think so.
VOTEC. So do they
But-
include that in the per pupil expenditure, or is that not part of it? I didn't know
Not
that, so
sure.
I was curious about that.
I thought they were independent, but I'm not 100%.
One of the articles I read today as I'm looking through things and came up in the state of Michigan. They're like everywhere, everyone's looking at how to. And they found that their administration costs are astronomical. Not teachers, but
Oh,
secretaries, assistant principals,
Well, that's
principals.
union stuff, and
Well, is it though?
So when,
it is, a lot of it, too.
That you have to hire them, or?
well, on the administration line, do you want a better breakdown of how many administrative people we have and what?
Just out of curiosity, yeah, I'd like to see.
Yeah,
it.
because
There's a
we
little
didn't get that.
breakdown.
There is each one, you're right.
Yeah.
That's what got me looking,
I
because it
wonder
seemed
how
like we had a
many
lot of us.
Per
I mean,
pupil.
does an assistant principal teach?
Ratio.
I mean, maybe it would be good to understand how, the number of administrative people per student.
Yeah.
And
Some
then
of
what's
them are
the,
expensive.
what's the statewide average?
Yeah,
I
why
just-
not? Yeah,
I think we're getting wide here, though,
yeah, we are.
and long on the questions.
You
Yeah.
think so?
Yeah.
Why is that wide and long?
I think it's a lot of time, maybe we can do it, but I thought we talked about 3 or 4 meetings. So, maybe we go through this and we prioritize our questions, come
Okay.
back at them one more time.
So, and I don't know if we should save this to the budget time, but I'd like to know what other capital costs they expect to have.
Oh, yeah,
We bought
that's
the
part of
school-
strategic, yeah.
Yeah, we bought the school a truck last year, it was, I don't know, 50,000, whatever it was, 50, 60,000. That money could alternatively have gone into, teaching services or something else, so when thinking about the overall expenditure of the town, It'd be nice to know if they have any big stuff coming up. But I don't know if that's better to wait till the,
Well, I'd also like to ask them, what's the influx of new students? What are we looking at? Because if we have new kindergartners, we're gonna be able to project going to the future.
Yeah.
What's
You need
gonna
another
happen?
teacher in the first grade, it's gonna
Yes,
follow
and what
through.
our
Because
I mean, do
costs-
they have
capital
insight?
expenditures are outside the budget,
Right.
like
I was
roofs
just-
and all that, yeah.
I had that in the back of my head, it was like,
I know, except that that's all money the town
It
has
does
to come
fall
up
into
with,
it,
right?
sure,
So.
sure.
I
Where
mean,
do the
that-
capital spendings go? Do they get a special meeting? Or is
Yeah,
that
it's a
what, okay.
separate-
Those were the questions that got asked after the budgets were voted on.
Yeah.
Okay.
How would they have insight into what new students are coming, though? They're building, what did you say, 80 houses?
At least.
They have no
half.
idea.
Well, they
Well,
know
they-
how many are enrolling in
In
kindergarten,
kindergarten,
or
yeah.
how many enrolled this year in kindergarten.
those houses aren't gonna be built for a while, though. They're not gonna be up for a couple of years.
Right, but, you know.
But
if
to
they
plan
hit
for it.
Yeah, I mean, great, gives us a little more time.
Right.
Well,
Well, I
yeah,
drive
and-
by thinking I'm gonna see a house, it's still flat land, so.
I mean, one of the things that I worry about is, you know, we just accepted, I don't know, maybe 29 kids or whatever into the kindergarten
No kidding.
program through school choice. Now, we have to carry them through 12th grade
Right,
as these houses get built, 12 years,
Yeah,
right?
and that's a tough part, right? Because obviously the school would like the revenue that, you know, or, you know, the $5,500 per student.
Yeah,
So you want to run that, right? Because if they don't, it's more coming back out of the town, but.
but how do we address that if we end up over, like, so we'll have bigger classroom size, right, potentially?
I mean,
What
we
is,
see
what's
it
the
as-
average class
I don't think
size,
that's
do
us,
you know?
for us to address, though, right? How the school does it is theirs, it's just, I think we gotta concentrate on the spending. Like,
I guess so.
I just, like I said, I don't want, we're a committee to advise, and we're here to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't wanna tell, like, I'm not gonna go in there and tell a teacher how to do their job.
no,
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 I think it's-
absolutely not,
no, I'm not
Right.
suggesting that at all, but I do worry
But-
about this school choice thing.
Agreed.
You
Yep,
know?
I think it is something we need to discuss, like, what's the plan for if this goes
Say
AWOL?
we just, say we lose $500,000 in the next 7 years in
Yep.
school choice. What do we,
Right.
what's our plan to offset that? Just to have a thought.
Right.
Along
Do
with
we
the
start
water situation
curbing?
and everything else.
Yeah.
So one of the lines I was looking at was this, thing called contractual benefits, and exactly what's in that line. I don't know if that's just teachers, if it's administration,
Nope.
if there's raises.
Is that,
like,
the- is
what
that like the insurance 401k stuff?
Well, I
Or
know
is
that
it
the
like
health
the-
insurance is a separate
That's a
line
good
on the
question.
budget outside
Yeah.
of the school budget.
Well,
Not
the
sure
town
what's in there.
carries the cost for their
Right.
health insurance and their, that stuff. I remember when Dave told us, he said, they bring on a new employee and they have to worry about the salary, but they don't have to worry about if they have a family, the healthcare costs
Yeah.
and all that stuff. That's on the town.
Right, so that's not in this contractual benefits line, so I'm not really sure what is.
It must be,
I'm trying to
you know,
understand.
furthering education and all that other stuff. Who knows? But it'd be great, good to know. Very good to know, yeah. So,
Mo, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, no.
Say, Mo, in this presentation, there's $316,000 in special education and grants.
How much?
316,500.
Grants.
That's how much they got?
From special education grants.
It's a special education and grants, I assume.
So they're getting grants.
So,
Does that
is
mean
that
that's
in
from the
addition
state
to
or
what
the
we
Fed?
see in the budget?
Uh,
That way you see the whole big picture, you know.
This was on there, this was on the other budget, right?
I
This
think
isn't
they-
on this budget.
So
That
what-
there, that, you know, this wasn't on the town request budget, right? I don't know how else to say it.
So I'm
Something.
sorry, how much was that?
It's 316,500.
316?
Yeah.
So do you still wanna keep that question? Are they seeking grants? It looks like they might be.
Oh, I think they are looking for grants. I
Okay.
really do.
But we still wanna ask if they have a grant writer to help
So
them
if they
with
get that 316, is that in addition to what we see
Well,
here?
Yeah.
what they
So
gave
where's that going?
is a breakdown of what the school contributes to their own budget. They said they got $1,000,005 from school choice,
Yeah.
the 316 from special education and grants, 285 from the circuit breaker. That's the state kicking back in for the sped people. And then so they have revolving accounts, it's $252,000 from revolving accounts, that's a lot of money, they have income
That's-
somewhere.
Yeah, that's like, they said sports fees, activity fees, I forget what else.
So
they
where
said
is
in
that
there.
spent? Where,
It all kind of, I
It
think
goes
it
into the
goes
budget.
into the money they have to spend, and it gets into that confusing piece where they kind of move that around from year to year. You know how we said like the teacher salary line, they
See,
might put
that's
some
the
of that
issue,
contribution there. You know, it got a little confusing about year to year where they allocate that money. And I-
Lois' face.
I think at one point in the conversation, we said, we'd kind of like to see, here's your budget.
Here's
And
your
then
expenses.
At the bottom,
Yeah.
here's the money that the school's pulling in from other sources besides the town, rather than trying to allocate it on a per line basis. Do you remember that discussion?
Mm-hmm.
One
Because
budget,
that's, I think, where it got.
one budget, one increased number to look at and understand it.
Yeah.
And
So I guess is that one of our requests for this coming budget season, is can they present it in a way that just says, here's the total budget, here's the money we get from other sources, without trying to allocate that money to different lines? Would that be helpful to the committee, or do you,
I think it
Well,
would be,
indifferent?
I think it would, because like you would have a clearer sense of how their line items are going up and down, for one, because they were doing it all over the place. Well, it was an increase because of this, but then we used the money to decrease it, and you're like, well, what's really what are you really trying to raise it to? You know, so it was very confusing that way. I think you don't see the income coming in,
It gets allocated,
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
lines, and you
but
don't
I-
know
like, we struggle understanding it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how the heck you put it in front of the town
yeah.
and have them understand it.
well,
Yeah.
you're right.
I know.
When we are,
I
you know what I mean,
'cause
like
we're
this is,
finance people.
it's what caused, as far as I'm concerned, I caused the second meeting last time through, because I didn't get a good grasp on what the hell was going on, honestly, with the two different budgets, and I needed some time. I get it now.
Well, we got it late too, that didn't help. We got
Yeah.
like 70 pages the day
Right.
of.
We got it, well, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day, like, this is what they're asking
Yep.
from the town.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a note or it's something else saying
Right.
total budget is this,
Yeah,
total
whether
increase
we
is this.
understand it or not, that's,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing I had, because I think we touched on this during the other meeting that we had, the subsequent meeting, was I heard over and over again that there are needs that they have not been met. I don't know that I got a lot of specifics on what exactly are the needs that we're not meeting, because if there are, we should consider what funding is needed to meet those needs, right?
Mhm.
So I felt like maybe we should throw that in there and ask them to come prepared to say, here's the things we'd like to put in the budget that we haven't put in the budget, because, I mean, do other people have an interest in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if
Full
it's in.
disclosure, I mean, you
Yeah.
can't make decisions on a budget
well,
without
again,
knowing
it's
what's.
bottom line too,
Yeah, well, they
so-
can move it around however they want, which is
Yeah.
their prerogative, but we need to, if we're gonna present it and
It
say,
says,
we put our rubber
Looking
stamp
at
on it, we have
heating
to be
and
able to.
electricity, I'm like,
Yeah,
nothing was adding up across those.
I know, and I guess, I mean, that is a good point. It is a
Yeah.
bottom line budget, and they can move the money around. But that said, they can't just take the full budget and put it on grounds maintenance and not hire any teachers, like, so.
No,
And
right.
the other thing, and
Kinda understand, like, what's going on, right?
Well, I think
And
that's
I
what,
was doing
that's
the-
what we're trying to do, and I mean,
Yeah.
that, they offered to do this, so I
Yes,
mean, I
they
think it's
did.
just, this might be a confusing process set 20 years ago, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying
It
to.
used to be
As
a
my
lot
manager says,
worse.
just because it's
When I
always been that way
First came on
doesn't.
here, I think Kathy Grant said that she was gonna try and simplify this, because it was
Right.
totally incomprehensible a few
Yeah.
years ago. I mean,
so I think I have.
I think though, with the electric, so the utilities there, that little big amount there that they have off, if you look at the rest of the town, they don't have such an issue with electricity. So that to me would be an item that sticks out like a red flag if I was an auditor. What did they do with the electric bill, and why did they have it approved for over $30,000 more than they really actually needed?
Yeah, I mean, do you really wanna go down the road of asking them for utilities?
Not now.
Nope.
No,
but
no.
As we get into this process, I will.
Yeah,
Also, I mean, they have 4
Right.
buildings as well.
Not for this, what we're doing.
but then they
here.
didn't use it,
Well,
then
but
they,
for what we're doing right
Yeah,
here
there's
is
more
what,
understanding,
well,
yeah.
but what information
Get
do
down
you
to that
want
level.
them to bring? And we're gonna send them a memo, and we're gonna say, come, we wanna talk about these things, and this is what we wanna see. So, I don't know that I need to see utility bills, but if you folks.
At this
No,
point, no.
Absolutely not, no.
So right now I have 1, 2, 3, did you have any others, Cheryl? I had like 3 budget lines that we specifically wanted to focus in on, and then a few questions around those lines. And some other questions, not particular to those lines, but just in general. Are there any other lines or any other information we feel we want to include in the request? And basically what I'll type this up and circulate it, so you guys can tell me if I got something wrong, if I
Sure.
forgot something, if I put something in there that you don't want to press them on, or what, you know, like you were saying, we could go through and, you know, sort of prioritize and edit, if we feel like it's too much.
I don't know if it is or it isn't.
I just have a question, I don't know if this is for Dave, I don't know if they know, what we're to expect from ESSER funds, you know, because that could be going forward, some money that's coming in, and I don't know.
So is it, what did you do with the ESSER 2 funds, and are we expecting?
No, we're supposed to have
But
another,
are we expecting more?
are we expecting, yeah, like, do we know?
Okay.
Yeah, well, because that's another potential issue, right? We talked about that last year. If those ESSER funds when those ESSER 2 funds dry up,
Yeah.
now that if those are spent on people, which maybe they have to be,
That's right.
but then now that's,
How do we support that going
well,
forward?
there goes, yeah, there goes another increase.
Another person, yeah.
Yeah,
Which if you, yeah, so.
yeah.
So I didn't know, I just,
That's a good question.
Yeah, so we can put, how they use the last batch and what the, if they're expecting more, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think we were squeezed on time, remember? It was like, all of a sudden we had to,
Yeah,
I don't know if we'll see anything any sooner next year than we have in the past, or probably not.
I think a lot of it's them waiting for state numbers and everything else
Right.
too. Like,
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a
the
lot
process
unknown.
is really
Right.
tight by outside sources too.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's
I
been
mean,
involved in budgets.
I
knows they're
expect
always-
it to be up again
Like-
mainly because of the contracts.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
yeah, the contract
So
negotiations
last year
of
of the
last.
contract, the next one, we'll see what happens.
Well, you've got contract, you've got, you know, like we happen to touch on the IT stuff, like there's some,
They keep
again,
renewing.
what's fixed, what's variable. You know, so if we give no increases next year, there's still $250,000-$300,000 in increases, right? Just to meet contracts and,
Do you know if these guidance services include the, those, you know, the behavioral health professionals we were talking about, I forget what their titles are.
Psychologists?
Yeah, the psychologists, the counselors.
I don't know.
Is that included in the guidance, do you know? Or is that a separate line?
I'm looking, the psychologists are in 3280.
3280, so they have guidance services and they have
Oh,
psychologists.
that's,
Guidance is high school only, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
so those are 2 completely different roles, is that what you're saying?
I would think so.
I don't have the rest of the budget in front of me, but.
And the medical's just the nurses, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one. But it's a state law. You must have a registered nurse.
Yeah. Do we have, any sense of the student body activity costs versus what they call in fees? Do we have any concerns there, or do we think the fees are appropriate for?
What was it, I don't have, I don't have kids in school, so, not now, at least.
200 for sports.
Is there a family cap, though? Isn't there a family cap?
Yeah, I
think
feel
it
like
caps
there
it.
was. Like, it was like per
How much is
sport,
it?
but then no more
200
than.
200 a child, maybe up to,
The 350.
I have 3 kids, I don't know. I only had 2 in at a time.
I asked
They
my
just-
son in Whitman, I think they're higher.
Yeah, We have one of the lower.
We are
rates.
low.
Yeah.
We are definitely
But
low.
what are we talking in the scheme of things?
I mean, it's probably not a lot of money,
Bucks,
right?
yeah, I mean,
Because the other thing, I mean, you don't want to nickel and dime people to death, either,
No.
right?
Well, you're always gonna have the sports contingent in town, you know, they'll defend it, and then, well, we'll cut the band. Oh, you won't, because we got the band contingent.
Well, that's the challenge, right? Provide everything that everybody needs and at a
Yeah,
reasonable
it's-
price.
It really is a balance, because everybody wants the kids to have the best education and the best that we can give them, and there's no question, and I don't think there's anyone on this committee that doesn't agree with that.
No,
Yeah.
no.
We all, they all deserve a good education.
What's the measurement, though, as to the success of the kids?
Well, that's a good question, Mo, because we have, my understanding, and I don't have kids in school, we have great MCAS scores, we have great graduation rates, we have great acceptance to college rates, we have, how many teachers are going to leaving here to teach somewhere else? I don't think that's a huge issue, so we're doing something right.
Right, you can't
Right.
say what colleges to kids, because that's a financial thing, too.
Well, and it's a personal preference, some kids want to go to California to be as far away as possible, and other kids want to stay close to home.
Well, that's
I
the
mean,
thing, are they being accepted at all these schools? If they are,
Yeah,
then.
they
Yeah.
are. They've
Doing
good
fine.
acceptance
Yeah,
Yeah,
rates.
that's what
fine,
they're
yeah.
saying, is that
Yeah.
the acceptance
Yeah,
rate.
by any measure there, the school's
MCAS
doing
is-
fine.
That's kind of been getting whacked a little bit lately, hasn't it?
I
As
know,
an
I
indicator.
saw in the news this morning, like
They're
everything
gonna
was
give it
kind of
up.
down
Yeah.
because of,
Yeah, homeschooling
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah,
home teaching,
I
whatever.
mean, I don't
last
know
year.
how else you
But I mean,
measure.
yeah, I don't know. But to me, like, stepping back, like we gotta say, yes, this is enough money, no, this isn't enough money, and then we gotta balance it against the other needs of the town.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Which is-
That's really
which is
what we
The
do.
difficult
Yeah.
part, you know what I mean? Like, the
That's the
school
hard
committee's got, there's a bunch of good people in the school committee
Sure.
trying to
Yeah.
Sure.
figure this stuff out.
Oh, everybody's got the right motivation there.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to do the right thing. There's no doubt about that.
But there's only X amount of an increase, you know?
Well, and it all does come down to the philosophy of the people who live in the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to live in a town that gives you kids a good education? Do you want to have an ambulance ready when you need it? Do you want to have great water? Do you want to, if you do want that, if that's the town you want to live in, this is what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Well, and part of that is, I think the town, now we're off topic, and I apologize, but the
Well,
town
I-
needs, the
I
town
am
needs a
too.
planner. You started it. but
Yeah,
I'll
I
keep
did,
going.
sorry.
I'll go all the way across the street.
I
Okay.
agree with you.
But the
I
town needs a planner, right? Because, I've seen the Lincoln Street project, and I've, read plenty of opposition from some people I know and like, that live close by. But that can do a great job offsetting some of the stress that the town will experience over the next few years.
That's right.
Agree. That's a lot
If
of
the town-
taxes.
But I agree with you on the planner, and
Yeah.
David has mentioned it many
But if
times.
the town is, gonna spend $150,000, I don't know if that's the right number, but if they're gonna spend $150,000 on something this year, I think the first thing they should spend it on is getting somebody in here to develop a plan. and,
Yep, I'm with you.
What,
Maybe we can-
like a
Not
5-year
here,
plan or
but we'll
something?
look at
It's a
that
5-year
somewhere
plan,
else.
not even 5, but, is our zoning correct? Are we attracting the right people? Do we have the right places set up? How do we stop in the next 80 house development from coming in? Because if we're gonna have
Yeah.
a hard time absorbing that one in the school system. If there's another one, and God knows we have open space,
Right.
if there's another one, like, we're in more trouble, so.
Yeah, I mean.
And we won't have enough open space to build another school.
Well, and some of our wealthier towns in the suburbs, they buy up all the land. That's the end of it.
And should we be doing some of that? But that,
I think we
I
have.
mean, one of the things, like,
We have that open space committee, they've been buying land here and there, and again, I don't wanna
Yeah.
get too crazy, but,
yeah.
yeah, I
but
agree
it's
with you.
just,
I mean, with the whole thing with the Lincoln Street, I mean, there's probably everybody would like to see it stay the way it is, but at the end of the day, the tax
I know.
revenue, it's a
Mhm.
lot less drain on the, community to have a building like that than, apartments or, something else in
Mm,
there, so,
mm.
all things considered.
yeah, but it's hard,
It
and
is
it's,
hard, and the people that live there, I completely understand. There's a farm right down the street from me that's ripe for development.
Oh.
And you know, do I want it developed? No, it's gorgeous to just walk by and look at, it's beautiful, but am I realistic in saying that at some point, somebody's gonna grab that land and develop it? I'm sure they will.
So, but then, again, we need to come up with a plan, figure out what we keep, what we don't keep, and
Yeah, I
So
think,
how many items do you have? Not
so
too many.
I think we'd like this green sheet too again, right? So this is the thing they used to give out,
Oh, yeah.
and we stopped getting it. So I think one of the asks we were gonna have is, can they put that with the budget?
Can I see that, Jeff? I never saw it before.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know if
think it's,
Jeff is. Jeff, do you know what it is?
I remember the
It's just a
conversation about it.
summary of really
Do
basically.
you wanna look at it first?
The summary. I
Mhm.
think when, you know, it was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it's a big lift to put it together, so,
Yeah.
Why did
I mean,
we not
easy for
get
me
it?
to say. But
Mm-hmm.
What, did they just stop?
they just stopped putting it in, and we didn't really know why, and.
Well, they did the whole PowerPoint thing, and I
Yeah.
thought they thought that was,
That was more confusing. And they put a lot of time, and I think
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of time that they
Yep.
can put in differently, because I'm sure that was not a quick PowerPoint to put
No,
together.
I mean, those things, I've
Yeah.
put them together, they take a lot of time and energy, and what do you
Put
put,
all the
and what do
slides
you,
in.
you know, all that stuff, so we wanna be respectful. So here's what I have, so, we talked about line 3230, which is teaching services, and we'd like at least a summary of like the number of employees by general classifications, you know, K through 5, whatever, however they do it. Anyone added after the budget was approved, and then maybe, you know, if we could look at the number of employees per classification over the past like 2 years, that would be helpful, if that's not a big lift to put together. That seems to me like they would have that readily available. How were the ESSER funds used, and are we expecting any more? We'd like to really understand the plan of, you know, what they're thinking in terms of needs with respect to the expected increase in West Bridgewater students, which will then force us to reduce the school choice. The per pupil expenditure, we'd like to understand a little bit better about what's fixed and what's variable in there, just a, you know, rough, half of it's fixed. I
and
don't
if it
know.
includes the money we spent at the Aggie, right?
Yeah, and if it includes the agricultural students, landscaping, property insurance, stuff like
Sorry.
that.
I used to call the Aggie school, sorry.
Yeah, oh, the VOTEC.
I'm an
I
old
think.
person.
And I think it does include the agricultural,
Yeah.
it's the VOTEC, I'm not sure.
Vo-Tech, okay.
Yeah, is there a way we could hire like 1 or 2 teachers, or what could we really do to bring some of that sped in-house instead of outsourcing it? What would they need to be able to do that? Line 3245 was the, what I put, INST tech, instructional?
Tech maintenance?
Tech maintenance, okay. What's included in that? What's the $90,000? We think it's software maintenance. Can they just confirm that, or is there other stuff in there?
I think it's a contract more than just a maintenance.
I think it's
Like a
contract.
contract, like
Yeah.
we contract with Icon, like
Yeah.
the
So
copier
it's
thing.
probably
Mhm.
your support plus your software is
Yeah,
the,
yeah. I mean,
Probably.
usually that's what it is, right? Special ed, I think the question we had was, what role does the federal and state play in assisting with the special ed costs?
And we may have found that on that other line.
Yeah, but clarify. I think they rolled it
We
in
find
and it's,
316,500 from special education and grants.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know if that's what that is that the
Okay.
Fed and
Yeah.
the state?
Okay. Is there potential for more? Because I think it's kind of that kind of goes with do they have a grant writer?
Yeah,
That can help us
exactly,
increase
yeah.
the money we get in grants, right? And is that a
Mhm.
worthwhile investment? Do they feel like if we had somebody that did grant writing that, you know, they might pay for themselves and then some, right?
Well, not, if you have a real grant writer, they can do grant money for like the water department
Yeah.
and, you know, we have other issues.
Yeah, so maybe it's bigger than just a school,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I think we wanted a little bit better understanding, if I understood right, about the school behavioral health resources, what's the role they need. We
Mhm.
have 3 people, now what's the average per people around us, so we can get a better understanding of what other towns are doing and things like that.
How about
We-
outsourcing? Do we ever talk about, like, payroll, outsourcing payroll, for instance? Whether that's,
I don't know if there's
More
a cost, is there a
economical.
cost in here?
well, if
Who
you look
does
at
the
line
payroll?
3140,
Finance and legal services?
yeah, business clerk. It's like $109,000.
Is that Kathy though?
That's-
No, I think she's the
Huh?
financial director under that.
If you want a better understanding of that line
See,
3140?
well, we contribute 53,045, but then the school contributes 56.
Yeah,
so
so all
what
in,
is
we're at
that?
120.
Is that one person, or?
So
in-
3140, what's the business clerk do?
Yeah. Or just the general question, do we, I know we do our own payroll internally, I think we do, we must. But maybe that's done over here.
Yeah, I thought the payroll was
Is it done over here?
Yeah, I would imagine it would.
Well, it says it down low, Mo. Assist the business manager with payroll benefits, account payable, and accounts receivable.
Oh, that's what it says, it's in there?
It's a .8 for full-time.
Okay.
Point
So
eight.
that's, they like take care of all the AR and they, all
Accounts
the
receivable.
money that comes in and all the bills that get paid, they do all that.
Yeah, I'm
work.
just looking at the, what it's costing us.
I have a note next, my own handwriting says 2 people on that
It's
line.
2 people? Yeah,
It
that
is.
would
Oh,
make sense
really?
to me.
So they have 2 business clerks.
I don't know, that,
Yeah.
my
I mean-
scribble from, I don't remember what,
That sounds more reasonable, 120 for somebody to do that type of work seems a little bit high, so it will make more
Yeah,
sense.
it's very
to me.
equates, yeah, to two.
it looks, not seeing the business manager listed anywhere else.
At the bottom,
And that's his financial director.
yeah, what's that? Oh, that's Kathy, right?
That would be my thought. So there might be a business manager, and then there's a .8 full-time employee.
So do we have a question on that line, or are we
I'll
comfortable
ask
with
it,
it?
yeah.
3140? And what do you want me to ask?
Just an explanation of the line item.
So what these folks do?
Yeah.
Okay. So chapter 70 funds, how are they used? The special ed, without diminishing services, is there an investment we can make? I think I had that on the first page, so I might have that twice. Is the VOTEC money included in the per pupil? We said that. That's a dupe. Number of administrative people per pupil, what's the statewide average? So just in general, how many admin people do they have versus students, and then what's the statewide average? The influx of new students they anticipate, so that can kind of go up with the discussion around, you know,
Yeah, they
planning.
must know if they have like more school choice coming in per grade also. That must have already been, applications must have come in for that for last year,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they've already started, they should
Yeah,
have
so-
a count.
Well, yeah, but I think it's a matter of understanding how many West Bridgewater students they have before they
Yeah.
can understand
Right.
what they can fill that
Understood.
void with, right?
Right.
Do we bus those kids too?
No,
No,
no, it's
I
up to
don't
they
them.
have to get here.
Yeah, they have to-
So I think there's a group that comes in through kindergarten, and then I think there's another group that can enter in high school because of people, other students going to the Voc schools.
Or other
Right.
schools, yeah.
Yeah, or
So
just
they don't
private
allow
schools.
any in between the 4th and 6th grade if somebody moves out?
No, I'm sure there's a few, but I mean, I
Okay.
guess from
It's
The
more
vast
of a,
majority,
okay.
yeah.
You want a continuum of education for kids, you don't want to be
Yeah.
bouncing them around.
but I
So
think-
do we want to ask about capital expenditures, or you think you want to wait until
I
the
would
budget
like to
time?
know if, I got a hint at one of the meetings that maybe
new
somebody's, maybe there's a process started for a new school, and I would like to clarify
So
that.
let's leave it on. The
Sorry.
3230, 5101 contractual benefits line, really what's in there? Is it all teachers, is it admin? I think it's, you know, like sick buyback, but is there other stuff in there? if they could reformat the presentation of the budget to not do this line by line.
Adding, keep the school stuff separate, or their income separate.
And then what other needs do they have that aren't being met? So I think that's our list, and
Think
the
about it.
3140 I put on there. Does that seem reasonable? Does it seem like too much, not enough?
I think some
Is
of
there
it will
anything else?
overlap, you know.
I don't know. I'm hesitant about asking maybe too much of them. I don't want them to feel like we're beating them up,
No, I know,
because we're on their side,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we want the kids to be educated and all that, so,
Agree.
um,
So do you wanna take some time to think about it? I'll pull it together and send it out to the team, and
that sounds like a
Maybe
great idea.
prioritize what we think is most important, maybe that would be
yeah,
a
maybe
good
what I
idea.
could do is type it up, send
Mhm.
it out, everybody can put their top
Okay,
5 or whatever, and then, we'll see what shakes out. Does that seem?
Sure.
Yeah,
and
and
if
I
we have
wonder-
extra
I
time, we
mean,
could
we
delve
have
into the
a
other
bucket of
stuff.
money that we get every year. This is just part of it, a
Yeah.
big part.
Yeah.
But we
Well,
also,
but
as
it's
a
half,
FinCom, are
right?
looking at everything else too.
Yeah.
Well, I
it's
think
like half
that's what I was
the
gonna say,
money.
like, I think we need to maybe highlight some external pressures that the town's gonna feel in the next
Yeah,
5
that water
years.
department, I'm worried.
From water, well, I mean, legitimately from water to whatever else we can see as some issues. And then honestly, lay it out, I don't know if we get all this done right away, but if we lay it out as to how it would work under a 2.5,
Yeah,
right? With, sort of built-in average increases per department, whatever they are, and then understand what our shortfall is or what it isn't. Again, I've owned my first year, but I don't see anybody looking at like a 4-year outlook or a 5-year outlook
I
or
know, and
anything
that-
along those lines.
That troubles me, like that we
And,
don't have
yeah.
a plan.
right.
And I wouldn't mind trying to get something, and maybe David has something like that that's just not part of our process.
Yeah, you might.
But just to understand that, it's, even if you get the percentage of the increase you get in the next couple of years, that's great, but that means we're gonna break 2.5 here, we're gonna break
Well,
2.5 here, we're
Well,
gonna
look what happened when we tried to just adjust the COLA,
Yeah, yeah. I
But also know
I
that-
felt bad about how that went, cause I, from my own perspective, I'll only speak for myself, it was never intended to say the teachers did not deserve a raise, and I think that's how it got spun, and that really, that's not good. That's not really what was going on.
No, the least, or the worst thing really in town government is if departments are pitted against each other and they're not working toward a common
That
purpose.
often happens.
Right,
And that, feelings get hurt and stuff, and that's what my original comment was. Let's not try to
yeah,
them feel defensive.
Yeah.
The minute you feel defensive, you don't have a cooperative environment.
correct, correct.
You can always override 2.5.
Oh, yeah, no, and I mean, and
But,
honestly.
Eventually
But I think
people
we have
say
to-
enough, I can't,
I mean,
we
we have
can't
to
do
be
this.
sensitive to long-term,
Yeah.
residents and,
Of course.
retirees and
Oh,
people who, have been unemployed and income reduced.
fixed
and
income people,
All
yeah.
of that stuff through this pandemic and.
I resemble all those things.
You know what I'm saying? Right.
But I think at the end of the day, the school can probably rally more than enough people to get their budget approved
You're
at
absolutely
whatever
right.
number it's at.
That's right.
So
That's-
we
that's
should
the
be,
reality.
but we should be thankful that the school committee and the school administration is, as much as they're coming through with increases, they're somewhat consistent and they're not outrageous or anything along
mean-
those lines, because,
That's the form of government we have. There are other forms like Bridgewater has, that the buck stops with the council people.
Yeah.
So there's no town meeting, and they
Yeah.
make the decisions.
Right.
I can imagine, it'd be interesting to see
Yeah,
what they do over there, but
yeah,
when you got town meeting, and special interest, you know how it goes.
yeah.
Well-
So, being sensitive to
All
the
right.
school's needs, but also sensitive to the town's need for information. Let's pull this together, see how we feel. What about meetings? So, what's the availability for folks for meetings? If I just get like 2 dates in October and 2 in November, if we don't use them all, that's great.
I don't think we will, do
The
you?
first 2 weeks of October, I'm going to Hawaii.
Well, rub it in.
well, that, I'm gonna meet then, because
You
you're
can
there,
meet without me,
Yes.
but I won't be
Say
here.
they answer these and they come in, that should be the end of it, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, if we do it in one meeting, we do it in one meeting,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not like we're asking them for
No,
10 years
I don't
worth
see
of-
multiple meetings.
Well, no,
I
but
don't
we're
think.
asking, you know, I mean, depending on, I apologize,
That's okay.
depending on what we're asking them for time that they've never had to
Mm-hmm.
give before too. So
Yeah.
it might be that they can do it an hour at a time.
and then also don't, in November, if I remember correctly, our parent-teacher meetings around Thanksgiving, so we just want to be mindful of those too, those
I
bring
mean, we're
in,
not
you're gonna
asking them
need-
to pull significant,
yeah.
you know, documentation together or anything like that.
So who-
They're gonna
Who
need
will
time to
answer
pull that
this?
together too,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
So they're gonna need time to pull
Yeah.
some of this together, so the
Yeah.
thought is you're gonna make a list, we're gonna
Whatever is
kinda come
good
up
for
with a
them, have
priority.
them come back. How's
Well,
that sound?
so I'm just looking at the calendar. So we usually meet on Thursdays.
Mhm.
So we have the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. I think you're gonna be out
On
the
the 21st,
21st,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And you're out the 7th and the 14th?
Yeah, I could,
28th?
So that would only leave us one meeting in October.
Now, is that the meeting
Again,
where
just
they
because
come
one or
in?
two of us isn't out,
Yeah, I
shouldn't
don't
we?
know. that-
yeah, exactly,
When,
yeah,
When does school committee meet though?
I'm not sure we can accommodate
Sure.
that.
yeah.
I'm not sure when we meet.
They'll need to present it. Does that seem like okay? Okay?
That's perfect for me.
All right,
Reasonable?
all right.
Yeah, as
So-
long as I can go back and listen to it, I'm fine, so.
Yeah, and that, yeah.
can
So
watch
if it
this.
works out on a,
Exactly.
I mean, you can watch
Exactly.
it from the beach in
around 10.
Hawaii or whatever.
Yeah, like she's gonna tune us in.
I'm just saying, it's an option.
All right,
Anything
Miss
else
Chairman,
anybody wants to chat
Chairwoman.
about?
No, I think that
I
did it.
think that did it. We did it in almost less than an hour,
Okay,
so
do
that's
I have a
great.
motion?
Yes, you do.
Motion to,
What time is it?
7:08.
7:08. Motion to adjourn.
Second? Well, I think I might have, depending on who you picked.
You made
yeah.
the motion.
I'll
I-
second it. Well, she did.
no, you caused all the
I'm all
problems.
confused
Scott.
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.